In 1998, behavioral economist Richard Thaler proved in a landmark study that humans are physically incapable of accurately feeling the weight of small, repeated actions over time, and Wall Street has been quietly profiting from that blind spot ever since. Let me begin with a social experiment that you are already participating in, whether you realize it or not. Open your phone right now. Look at your last 30 days of transactions. I guarantee you will find multiple charges of roughly $100 that you cannot even remember making. A dinner here, a subscription renewal there, an impulse purchase that felt urgent at the time and means nothing to you today. A study from the Bureau of Labor Statistics found that the average American household spends over $300 a month on dining out alone. $300. That is 3 times the amount we are talking about investing, and nobody agonizes over that spending. Nobody lies awake at night thinking, is this restaurant meal really going to move the needle? But suggest taking a third of that restaurant budget and routing it into an index fund, and suddenly people freeze up. Suddenly it feels like a sacrifice. Suddenly the brain starts generating objections. This is not a money problem. This is a perception problem, and it has a name. Psychologists call it proportional thinking bias. Your brain does not evaluate $100 based on what it can become over decades. Your brain evaluates it relative to the size of the goal you have in mind. If your goal is to retire with $1 million, your brain instantly calculates that $100 is 0.01% of that goal. And then it tells you something devastating. Why bother? That is your brain being efficient in completely the wrong context. Proportional thinking works beautifully when you are comparing prices at the grocery store. It fails catastrophically when the variable of time enters the equation. Because compound interest does not care about percentages of your goal. It cares about consistency and duration. $100 a month invested in a broad market index fund at the historical average return of the S&P 500, roughly 10% annually, becomes approximately $637,000 over 40 years. You contributed $48,000. The other $589,000 was generated by time and compounding alone. Your brain cannot feel that. It cannot simulate 40 years of exponential growth in the moment of deciding whether to set up the automatic transfer. So it defaults to the feeling, and the feeling says, this is too small to matter. Here's the second mental model that works against you. It's something Morgan Housel explores brilliantly in The Psychology of Money. He talks about how our financial decisions are shaped not by spreadsheets, but by our personal histories, our upbringing, the economic environment we grew up in. He writes that people born in different decades had fundamentally different experiences with markets and inflation, and those experiences create a kind of financial DNA that drives behavior for the rest of their lives. If you grew up watching your parents live paycheck to paycheck, $100 feels like survival money. It feels like the buffer between you and disaster. The idea of locking it away where you cannot touch it triggers not excitement, but anxiety. If you grew up in a household where money was discussed only in the context of scarcity, investing feels like a luxury for other people. People with real money. People who do not have to worry about next month. This is not a character flaw. This is pattern matching. Your brain learned early on what money means in your specific world, and it is very reluctant to update that model. Housel makes the point that no one is crazy when it comes to money. Everyone is acting rationally within the framework of their own experience. The problem is that your experience may have installed a framework that actively prevents you from building wealth, and you will never notice because the framework feels like common sense. Let me give you a real-world example of how this plays out socially. Picture 2 friends. Call them Alex and Jordan. Both are 24 years old. Both earn roughly the same salary. Alex starts investing $100 a month into an index fund. Jordan decides to wait until a raise comes through so the investment can be something more significant, maybe $500 a month. Jordan is not being irresponsible. Jordan is being logical within a mental model that says the amount needs to match the ambition. 3 years go by. Alex has contributed $3,600. The account shows roughly $4,750. It is not a fortune. It is not impressive at parties. But something invisible has happened inside Alex. The habit has become identity. The monthly transfer is no longer a financial decision. It is just what Alex does, like paying rent, like brushing teeth. Jordan still has not started. The raise came, but so did a nicer apartment and a car payment. The $500 a month that was supposed to become available got absorbed by lifestyle inflation before it ever reached a brokerage account. This is not a fable. This is the documented pattern pattern of what behavioral economists call the arrival fallacy. People believe that when conditions improve, they will finally start. But improved conditions bring expanded desires, and the starting line keeps retreating into the future. There is a third psychological force at work here, and it might be the most insidious. It is called the magnitude heuristic. Humans are wired to respond to big events, big numbers, big moments. A 40% crash in the stock market over 6 months grabs headlines, triggers government action, and dominates conversation. But 140% gain over 6 years? That often goes entirely unnoticed because it happened gradually, quietly, without drama. The same principle applies to saving. If someone handed you $1,200 in cash right now, you would feel something. That is a tangible, graspable amount. But saving $100 12 times across a year creates the same result with none of the emotional impact. Your brain discounts the slow drip because evolution optimized you for noticing sudden changes, not gradual accumulation. This is why lottery winners feel rich and disciplined investors often feel like they are treading water. The sensation has nothing to do with the outcome. The disciplined investor almost always ends up in a better position, but the experience of getting there feels like nothing is happening for years. And this is where I need to tell you something uncomfortable. The first year of investing $100 a month is genuinely boring. There is no way to make it exciting. 6 months in, your account might show $578. The market returned basically nothing on your small contributions. You check the app and feel a quiet disappointment that you will not admit to anyone because you are supposed to be doing the right thing, and the right thing is not supposed to feel this empty. This is the part where most people quit. Not dramatically, not with a conscious decision. They just skip a month because things were tight, then another month. Then the app stops sending notifications because there has been no activity. Then a year passes, and the account is still sitting there at $578, earning essentially nothing because the habit died in the gap between knowing what to do and continuing to do it when nothing visible was rewarding them. The psychological term for this is the extinction burst. When a behavior produces no visible reward, the brain flags it for elimination. It is a survival mechanism. In nature, if you keep foraging in a spot that yields no food, you need to move on. But investing is not foraging. The reward is not absent, it is delayed, and your ancient brain cannot tell the difference. So how do you fight this? How do you override millions of years of cognitive programming that tells you small amounts do not matter and delayed rewards are not real? The first tool is reframing. Stop thinking about $100 a month as an investment amount. Start thinking about it as the price of admission to the compounding machine. Housel uses a powerful analogy about the stock market. He compares it to buying a car. You can pay full price for a new car and get the best experience. You can buy used for less, but with fewer benefits. Or you can try to steal one. When people try to time the market or chase shortcuts, they are essentially trying to steal the car. The price of long-term stock market returns is volatility, patience, and the emotional discomfort of watching your money go up and down. $100 a month is not the investment. It is the admission ticket. It is the fee you pay to get access to the most powerful wealth-building mechanism in human history. When you see it that way, skipping a month is not saving $100. It is forfeiting your seat. The second tool is identity architecture. Research from behavioral psychologist James Clear and others has shown that the most durable habits are tied not to outcomes, but to identity. You do not invest $100 a month because you want to be a millionaire someday. You invest $100 a month because you are the kind of person who invests. That subtle shift changes everything. When the market drops 14% and your account shrinks, and every instinct tells you to pull out, your identity holds. I am the kind of person who stays the course. When your friend buys a new gadget and you feel that twinge of wanting, your identity holds. I am the kind of person who feeds the machine first. Identity is stickier than motivation. Motivation fluctuates with mood and circumstance. Identity persists because abandoning it feels like losing a part of yourself. The third tool is understanding what Warren Buffett actually teaches us, and it is not what most people think. Yes, Buffett is one of the greatest investors of all time, but here is the detail that changes everything. Roughly $81.5 billion of his $84.5 billion net worth was accumulated after his 65th birthday. He started investing at age 10. He was a millionaire by 30, but the overwhelming majority of his fortune came from the last third of his life. Not because he suddenly got better at picking stocks, but because the compounding curve finally reached its steep phase. Meanwhile, Jim Simons, who actually generated higher annual returns than Buffett at 66% 36% per year, ended up with significantly less total wealth. Why? Because he did not start serious investing until he was 50. He had less than half the time for compounding to work. The lesson is not about talent or stock picking. The lesson is that the early years of investing, the boring years, the years where $100 feels pointless, those are the years that create the foundation for the explosive growth that comes later. You are not investing for what happens in year 1. You are investing for what happens in year 35, when the account is returning $7,000 annually on your $1,200 yearly contribution, and you suddenly realize the machine is doing the heavy lifting. There is one more psychological trap I need to address, and it relates to how we process social comparison. According to research published in the Journal of Consumer Research, people evaluate their financial progress not against their past selves, but against their peers. When you have been investing $100 a month for 3 years, and your account holds $5,000, and your coworker just bought a brand new car, your brain does not say congratulations on your discipline. Your brain says you are falling behind. This is the comparison trap, and it feeds directly into the feeling that small amounts are meaningless, because the visible markers of financial progress in our culture are all about spending, not saving. The person driving the luxury car gets noticed. The person with $20,000 in an index fund gets ignored. But as Housel points out, there is a critical difference between being rich and being wealthy. Being rich is about current income and visible spending. Being wealthy is about financial assets you have not spent yet. True wealth is invisible. The diamonds you did not buy, the upgrades you declined, the lifestyle inflation you refuse to absorb. Those invisible choices are what separate people who look financially successful from people who actually are. Let me pull all of this together with one final mental model that I think changes everything. It is called the overnight tragedy versus the slow miracle. When a stock market crashes, when a bank fails, when a company goes bankrupt, we notice immediately. These are overnight tragedies. They demand attention, generate fear, and dominate the news cycle. But when medical research saves 500,000 lives over 50 years through gradual improvements, when the stock market delivers an 11% average annual return across 7 decades, when a person turns $48,000 into $637,000 through nothing more than consistency and time, these are slow miracles. And slow miracles are almost invisible while they are happening. You cannot feel compound interest working on a Tuesday afternoon. You cannot sense your future self becoming wealthier because you transferred $100 this morning. The process is utterly silent. It announces itself only in retrospect. When you look at your account 10 or 20 years from now and realize that the gap between what you contributed and what you have has become enormous. And it happened without a single dramatic moment, without a single stroke of luck, without a single decision more complex than clicking transfer and going about your day. This is why $100 a month feels impossible. Not because it is too little money, because our brains are not designed to appreciate slow miracles. We are built for the dramatic, the immediate, the visible, and compound interest is none of those things until suddenly it is all of them at once. So here's what I want you to take from this. The feeling that $100 does not matter is real. I am not going to pretend you will not feel it. You will feel it in month 1 when your account shows $99.70 after a market dip. You will feel it in month 6 when the balance barely crosses 500. You will feel it every time someone around you makes a big flashy purchase and you quietly transfer your 100 into an account that nobody applauds. The feeling is real, but the feeling is wrong. It is a cognitive artifact from a brain that evolved to chase immediate rewards and avoid invisible risks. You are not a gazelle on the savannah anymore. You are a human being with access to the most powerful wealth-building mechanism ever created. And the entry fee is $100 and 30 seconds of your time each month. The question is not whether $100 a month can change your life. The math already proved that it can. The question is whether you can tolerate feeling like it is not working long enough for it to actually work. That tolerance, that willingness to keep feeding the machine when the mirrors do not show progress yet, that is not just a financial skill. It is maybe the most important life skill nobody teaches. Start today, not because it will feel meaningful. Start because the things that change your life almost never feel meaningful when they begin. They only feel meaningful when you look back and realize you were building something extraordinary, one invisible $100 at a time. If this changed how you think about money, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want Want to go deeper on the psychology of building wealth? Watch this video next. I will see you there.